Generational bios. According to Strauss and Howe, each generation has its own biography, a biography that tells the story of how the personality of the generation is shaped and how that personality subsequently shapes other generations. In their model, generations are defined as a cohort group whose length approximates the span of a phase of life and whose boundaries are fixed by peer personality. Today's older adults are a member of one of these three generations. First, the GI generation, with birth years between 1900 and 1924. These adults grew up in the United States during the deprivation of the Great Depression and then went on to fight in World War II. Of those who did not fight in the war, they made a decisive material contribution to the war effort on the home front. The silent generation. Birth years between 1925 and 1945. They lived in a world of relative prosperity and wealth. Strauss and Howe designate members of this generation silent to recognize their position between two dominant generations, the GI generation of the Depression, World War, and the post-war recovery, and the baby boomers of campus unrest, the age of Aquarius, and the introspective 70s and 80s. The baby boomers. Birth years between 1943 and 1960. Their college careers coincided with the civil rights and women's movements, the Vietnam War, and a period of significant collegiate unrest. Many of these students attended college during a period when the social order seemed to be disintegrating.
This is the problem with getting old. You get sick all the time. You can be well one day and sick the next day. It's a pain in the neck. And that's what happened to me. I got sick again. Wound up in the hospital. Came home. A couple of months later, got sick again. After 3 times, the office here said, you can't live in that apartment anymore because it's too much trouble for us to take care of you. You have to live in what they call the resident assisted living, which is this part. And I fussed and cried about it. Didn't want to give up my apartment. But if I was going to stay here, there was nothing else I could do. So they put me in this place, and I called it the broom closet. I'm living in the broom closet. And that makes everybody very annoyed with me, because nobody thinks it's a broom closet except me.
But I don't like to have to go to health care every single day and not do anything else. Nothing. I am grateful for it, but I resent it in some ways. I don't know who to resent, that he got sick. That's what couples do.
And then I got sick. I caught something called hemolytic anemia. And she said, come here, there's all kinds of hospitals here, find out what you got, take care of you. Sold the house, came here, went to Duke, found a doctor, and he's been taking care of me ever since.
I don't look at myself as being 84. And until, of course, when you get sick and you get in pain, you can't do all these things, then you do get a bit of a change.
I don't like the idea of getting older and sicker and looking forward to getting even sicker. I've always been in good health. I was in the Marine Corps for 30-some odd years. I had almost perfect health. So I don't like the idea of being some debilitated old man, which I suppose is normal, natural. That's going to happen to me sooner or later. So that's what I don't like about it.
Well, it means that to your last tomorrows coming very soon. But you don't think about that. You just know it's there. And it's not that I'm happy about it, but there's nothing I can do about it. And I don't find growing old being a pleasure. A lot of people think old age, as you get older, is wonderful, but I have so much in life that I'm looking forward to that I'm just not ready to give it up yet, but I have no choice.
It's been very good. At first I was kind of impatient about it because people are just so nice and they you know, they're very courteous and what have you, and it just seems I went from one phase of my life into being considered an elder, and it just it doesn't bother me at all, so I basically have accepted it and rather enjoyed it as much as I can.
Well, we get when I think we could just start maybe with depression. When the nurses notice that you're not coming out to dinner, for instance, you're supposed to, the rules loosely are that you come out for dinner or lunch or breakfast at least twice a day. If you don't do that, they notice and they'll come in and say, you know, are you okay, or why you didn't show up for dinner today, or you know, we can bring you something to eat, and they just want to know how you are, and if they suspect that you might be depressed, and some people are, they'll call one of the counselors in, and somebody will come. And usually they're pretty good, but I don't feel like going to lunch because just the thought of looking at all that food all over again. But they want you to go anyhow. And when I don't go, somebody always comes and sits down and starts to talk to me because they think I'm depressed. And I keep saying to them, I'm not depressed, but I don't like to eat that much. And I don't feel like going there, but I don't want to go. I don't know why I have to go. So we were living happily ever after here, and then my husband got sick. He had something wrong with his heart. The blood he lost his circulation, had a hard time, and I finally lost him 3 years ago. And that's another thing that I miss. If I had found a really good friend that I could be chatty with, like friends with, like I used to be. I always had somebody, a next door neighbor, or one of my husband's wife's friends, or somebody that I could really talk to, or some of my relatives. I used to talk to my relatives. But now that everybody's gotten old, and now that I'm in this place, I hardly ever I don't have anymore a real good friend, and I miss that.
20 years ago, they didn't have retirement centers with lots of stuff to do, no matter how elder you were. There's always something today to do, no matter what your dimensions might be. But not 20 years ago, so their things about going old is not the same as ours.
I got to meet new friends, and I've got the activities programs here are wonderful. I've gotten to do things that I don't think I'd ever do, such as painting, and working with beads, making jewelry and stuff like that. I just would never do that if I were out on my own, I'm sure.
I don't consider this my home, but I guess I'll have to be realistic and say yes, it is, because I'm probably never going to go back to the cottage to live. It's just sad, but that's part of it.
I've never thought of this as a retirement
Okay.
community. I think of this is my home. And fortunately, I'm in a lovely place, and people here are very nice, and I'm enjoying it.
But I do feel sorry for the way that families have turned out. I don't think it should be this way. I think somebody should say, give up that place and come on here. My husband left me enough money that I could live outside with the money he left me with no problem at all. I could have stayed in my little house, had my car, everything. But over here, that money is disappearing very fast because it's a lot of money to stay here. It costs $5,000 a month.
Oh, wow.
Basic. If you do a lot of other things you add to that, it comes out to be more than that. And the more sick that you become, the more you have to pay. They add on to it as you get more sick. Because they have to have nurses who can take care of you. More nurses. So, it's a catch-22. And I don't like it a bit myself.
But I knew my friends were going to be there because I had learned everything. Because when you come into a place, you find these things, and I know where they worked, how often they got married, the children, where they lived. So I really knew them, and they knew me.
Mm-hmm. Aging does not bother me at all. I like it because I'm still here. And I don't see any reason to not like it. It basically is a step in your life, so when you kind of wind down a little bit.
I just don't know how I would have ever gotten along without this family of mine. I have 3 daughters and 5 granddaughters and 5 great-grandchildren.
Mm-hmm.
Which isn't a large family, but they're so much a part of our world. And of course, to see the extension of the family grow as the babies come, because you started at one point. You started it all. It's very rewarding. And I can't imagine anybody not having a family, unless you absolutely physically can, because that's so important. And since I've been in here, it just shows how important a family is to you. They just are wonderful. I don't know, I think I'm very fortunate.
Okay.
I think I have one of the best families. Yes, I couldn't be this happy if I didn't have my family and my husband. And of course, friends. Your friends become important to you as you get older. Very important. And that's just another world, another part of getting old is your friends as you get older. You have more friends, and you look at them in a different way. But they're very, very important.
And I don't think it's good. I really don't think it is. Since I'm sitting here, being very lonesome, missing my children, even missing my parents after all these years. And it's not a very happy way to end your life. At least I don't think so. And the argument of, if we talk to people about it, and the argument always is, but you don't really want to live with your daughter. You lived with her. You didn't enjoy it. That was true. I didn't enjoy it. But we would have gotten over it. If I had stayed, she could have gone back to work, and I would have been okay. And I'm sure it would have worked out fine. We just didn't do that. She didn't want to. I didn't want to. And that was what happened. So I can't say. I feel sorry sometimes that I know our ways of life have changed a lot. The way we live and the way we think we're supposed to live. But some things have given way. And that old-fashioned family thing is one thing that has given way. And that's why these places exist. because all these people here don't have anybody who wants to take them in. And you see, I'm fortunate that I can take care of myself and walk around and do things, but how many more years? 5 more years before I'll start being like everybody else. But some people are still like this, or some people are still home, and they're feeble-minded. They don't remember who they are and where they are, and somebody takes care of them. But it's not easy. It's hard. Whichever way you look at it, it's hard. But after Frank died and I was there by myself, my kids all got very nervous. And that was okay. I didn't mind. I didn't mind living by myself. But I fell down and broke my hip, and that was the beginning of the end. Broke my hip. No, you can't stay by yourself anymore. I stayed with her for a while till I could walk fairly well. And nothing would do but I sell that house and come live with her. And I very foolishly did that. And it didn't work out because she didn't want to babysit me. She wanted to go back to work. She was working as a nurse out at and so what was I supposed to do? I didn't mind staying by myself, but she insisted that I sell the house and come with her. And then she went back to work. Then she didn't want me to be by myself in the house. And I said I didn't mind being by myself in the house. At this time I was already 85. And I drove the car. I never had an accident. And I had my little friends. I used to go to church, and I belonged to a lot of little groups. And I was okay, except I missed my husband so bad. But all of a sudden, I can't leave you here all day by yourself, she says. It's too dangerous. And I said, well, let's get somebody to come in and be with me once in a while. No, can't do that. I haven't got time to interview everybody. Well, the end of it was, she decided, that I should come here. I've heard a lot about this place. I didn't know anybody who had been here, but I wasn't too enthusiastic. The worst thing that happened to me, that I blame on my daughter, she didn't tell me. After I broke my hip and after I went home with her, and then when she told me she wanted to go back to work, she also said to me, I'm not giving you keys back, car keys back. I don't want you to drive anymore. And I said, why? I can drive fine. I can see, I can hear. I can't really hear that well. I have a little problem hearing. But she said, 85 years old, has no business driving a car. She wouldn't give me the keys. That hurt worse than anything.
Oh, I think the young people have a lot of misconceptions. I think the young people feel that we live on a different planet, more or less. A lot of young people don't respect the older people, and they don't really think back about what they've accomplished in their lives. That has been something very valuable.
My philosophy is, after you live your whole life and you have your children and you wind up in an old people's home, there's something wrong somewhere along the way. Something happened that shouldn't have happened. And it's not a particular thing that I have to say it's my family's fault. There's 4 of them and nobody wants me. That's not what I'm talking about. What happened is that, I think what happened is our culture has changed to such a degree that we don't consider that our first obligation is to our parents like we used to feel. I had one aunt, I had 5 aunts and 3 uncles on my mother's side in Savannah. And my one aunt never got married, and she stayed home and took care of her mother, my grandmother, until she died. And when she died, Aunt Kitty was too old to get married. She did have a boyfriend once, but nothing ever happened there. And, but that was the way it used to be. Somebody in the family always wound up having to mind the old folks, or taking the old folks home with them, or living in the old folks' house, or something. And we've lost that. We don't have that closeness anymore. And I was guilty of it. I went off to New York and had saved enough money to buy a car, and that would have been a big boon for everybody in my family if I had stayed home and was able to drive my parents around and take them to the grocery store and whatever. But I didn't do that. I went to New York. I went to live my own life. And that's what everybody's supposed to do, I think. But it's because our culture has changed. From my generation, from their generation to my generation, there's been a whole change in the way we live as a people. Now, I think that in Europe they probably still stick to that old-fashioned thing a little more than we do, but we don't. And it may be one of the reasons why the families break up as bad as they do, because it seems like there's nothing to hang on to sometimes. When you're by yourself, it can be very lonesome when you're by yourself.
Probably that we're kind of a bother in a way, because we depend more on either family or younger people for help and assistance in, well, walking, and we depend on people for transportation as a rule. And I guess we become more dependent. That's probably the biggest.
Since I'm 87 years old, it seems like I can make up my own mind whether I need to eat or not. And they don't agree with that, because they're not always sure that people like me who come in have got their own minds. I know they think all of us are probably a little crazy, and they have to watch out for us. But it happens that God's been very good to me, and I have all my brains. I haven't lost them. Thank you, Lord. And I get very annoyed.
I think we would both be open to it. We'd done it before, haven't we?
Yes.
I know I have, but I think you have too. If I remember correctly.
It's true. But I don't know why we would go now.
I don't either.
Like, I'm not going to be old anymore, he's not going to be sick. Those are the things I don't want to deal with. I mean, being old is one of those things. But him not being able, he can't drive. We can't go anywhere. I'd have to get the diapers and 1,000 pills. So I can't take him anywhere, and I'm not going to leave him. So that's what it likes. I don't think a counselor could redeem any of that stuff.
Sure he would. A counselor could tell you how to live with that. How to adjust to it.
Yeah.
Might be helpful, who knows? So their biggest problem, I don't know, maybe they don't like people they don't know nosing around their business or their private affairs, and therefore object to it. If you're a trained counselor, I'm sure you've been taught how to handle and behave around elderly people. Of course, we're all different, but I just feel that they should just relax and find out what they want to know. I don't know. Just be nice. Show a little respect. Because basically, elderly people can feed you a lot of information that you may not have known before. And if they're counseling you, as a patient, you should be, understanding and realize that people are trying to help you. They're not getting nosy into your private life or what have you. The questions they ask you are what they need to know about you, so I think a lot of people get upset when, people come and not pry, but elderly people might take it as they are prying into their life, and I don't think they should not be given that idea.
Well, I just think you should try to live the best you can and get as much out of life in a good way that you can. And not just sit back on your laurels and say, well, here I am, 84 years old. What more can I do? Is my life over? I don't believe it is. It's getting there, though.
If anybody asks you, well, how's Miss Caponegro? Miss Caponegro is ready to fly away. If I could get that window open, and if it was closer to the floor, I'd jump out and run away. That's the way I feel. I don't feel like being an old person.